First of all, there is a commitment towards regulatory initiatives, things like MiFID II and CSD regulation, as well as T2S and so on. But it's the market participants, like yourselves, who are ultimately responsible and will feel the effects of that. What changes do you anticipate as a result?
Well, I don't think you can get away from the fact that there is a justifiable reason for a lot of the regulatory changes. Clearly that will give rise to some increase in regulatory costs, but that's just what it is, and it's not unjustified. I think the knock-on effect is the difficulty in keeping the balance between competition and between safety. So by definition, increasing regulatory costs will increase the barriers to entry. So I think that will have an impact on competition. How much, we'll have to wait and see. On the other hand, the safety is of paramount importance. So I think it is a matter of getting this balance right. So whilst at 50,000 feet, this all makes a lot of sense. I suspect there will be some finessing over the period to make sure that we get a balance, an appropriate balance, between competition and safety.
I mean, there is talk about creating more competition among CSDs, for instance, opening it up so that more people can choose which CSD and in which country they go to. Do you see that perhaps being a smaller number of larger CSDs rather than the current system?
Well, I think we need to wait and see how some of the CSDR pans out, but frankly, 18 months ago, I knew of about 6 or 7 organisations who are going to set up CSDs, and that's now come down to 1. And I know a lot of the CSDs in Europe are saying that they will struggle under the existing template. So it seems quite reasonable that there may be a fewer number of larger CSDs. I mean, the reality is that it's a volume game as a utility. And so by definition, with a utility having a relatively high fixed cost and low marginal cost, there is going to be a benefit to those who have the greater volume. So I think that is quite possible. But I also wouldn't underestimate the fact that a lot of countries place a significant value in having their own CSD. You go back many years, like airlines wanted their own flag carriers. And so I have many discussions with people who want to consolidate CSDs, but only on the basis it's based in their country. So I still think there's quite a long way to go before you get meaningful consolidation. What
changes do you feel are still necessary to actually arrive at where the originators of the T2S plan hope to get?
Well, I think we discussed this probably 18 months ago, and to me the real issue is still harmonisation. Clearly within T2S we have some harmonisation on the settlement side, and that is very positive. But we still have significant differences, particularly on the corporate action side. And so what does that mean? It means that in many countries, there is a value in knowing how the local system works. And so by definition, until that is eradicated or significantly reduced, that is a barrier to country A being able to do business in country B. And so I think it is to do with the corporate action type harmonisation, rather than just a settlement harmonisation. And it's difficult. There's no two ways about it. We did it with ESIS between France, the Netherlands and Belgium. And to agree rule books took several years. People have a religious belief in the way they do things, and trying to get people to change can take time.
Assuming that the single securities market is here in 5 years' time, what do you think it'll actually mean for Europe? How will it affect the economy of Europe as a whole?
I think we need to be careful at times and not overstate the importance of some of these things. So clearly having a more efficient securities market is a good thing. I think what is far more important in the immediate term is economic growth and perhaps supporting some industries. So we need to be careful not to think too much in a bubble and say that if we achieve this, therefore, we achieve the growth that Europe is looking for. I'm sure if we are particularly inefficient, you can hinder the growth. I think we need to be careful that we don't think achieving some of these changes from a securities perspective, which in many cases are quite detailed and frankly quite dull, they can make incremental savings. But I do think that the environment we're in at the moment means that there are some bigger battles to win for it to really pay off the appropriate dividends.
It will pay off for issuers and investors alike?
Less sure. To me, a lot of what we're doing is it gets rid of some excuses, so people can use whatever CSD they want. I will be interested to see how much people really do move. The reality is, as I say, this is partly a utility game, and so the principal criteria, I think, will be something to do with who can provide the right quality at the right price. So will there be a whole-scale move? I suspect not, but I also genuinely believe that you do need to give people the choice, rather than at the moment there is rather a compunction for the status quo.
Just finally, we've got a new man who's just taken over from Jean-Claude Juncker as head of the Eurogroup. From a market perspective, what would be the advice to him? What should he be looking out for? What should his priorities be?
Well, there's a couple of observations here. First of all, as you'd expect from a Brit, but I think we do have to bear in mind that the single market is not just the euro. There was a lot going on outside the eurozone. Clearly, with respect to the eurozone itself, I think the sentiment is clearly a lot better than it was, say, 6-12 months ago. But you cannot escape the fact that a lot of this is on the back of statements about one will do whatever it takes, which is all well and good, but still fundamentally economic growth is weak, somewhat anemic. And so I still think no matter how you look at this, whilst we've taken the pressure off in the short term, we really need to be focusing significantly in terms of what we can do to generally increase the economic growth within Europe, and that's a lot easier said than done.